The Silent Invasion. The Basilian Empire had ruled the Andromeda sector for over 3,000 years. They had conquered black holes, tamed supernovas, and built cities that floated between stars. Their technology was unmatched, their military perfect, their civilization considered the pinnacle of evolution, until they started disappearing. First, it was just the border colonies. Communication would stop, and investigation teams would find empty settlements. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just emptiness. Food still on tables, vehicles parked neatly, personal belongings untouched, as if everyone had simply ceased to exist. Then it happened to Thraxia, one of their core worlds. 60 million citizens gone in a single night. The Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Station hummed with tension. Representatives from 17 species sat around the massive obsidian table, their expressions ranging from terror to resignation. Emergency lights pulsed overhead, bathing the room in alternating blue and red. The defense grid on Cygnus Prime has fallen, announced Grand Admiral Zex Talon, his crystalline body reflecting the pulsing lights. That's the 12th major outpost in 16 cycles. How? Demanded Counselor Krell of the Mantodea Collective, her insectoid mandibles clicking anxiously. Cygnus had our newest quantum barriers. Nothing should have penetrated them. Nothing did penetrate them, said Admiral Zex Talon, his voice like grinding glass. The barriers remained intact, but everyone inside vanished. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. We call them the Whispers, said Director Vos Teller of Galactic Intelligence, their gelatinous form rippling with anxiety. They leave no trace, trigger no alarms, and defy all known physics. Our best scientists believe they exist partially in thought space, feeding on consciousness itself. So we face extinction against an enemy we cannot see, cannot fight, and cannot understand, summarized High Chancellor Iridian, the eldest of the council members. His ancient scaled face seemed to have aged decades in recent weeks. Does anyone have anything to offer beyond confirmation of our doom? At the far end of the table, a hand raised. The council members turned, some with surprise, others with disdain. Commander Ilara Voss sat straight-backed in her chair, her dark eyes steady. She was the only human in the room, the only human to ever hold a position of authority in the Galactic Council's military structure. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 80 years ago. Most council species regarded them as primitive curiosities at best, dangerous unpredictables at worst. Commander Voss, said Chancellor Iridian, his tone carefully neutral. You have something to contribute. Ilara stood, her uniform crisp despite the 36 hours she'd been on duty. I believe I know how to fight the Whispers. A ripple of murmurs ran through the room. Admiral Zext, Talon's crystalline form clinked as he shifted. And how could you know what our best minds have failed to discover? Because humans have been fighting thought-based enemies for our entire existence, Ilara replied calmly. We call it consciousness. Explain, demanded Counselor Krell. Ilara activated the holographic display at the center of the table. The Whispers attack consciousness directly. They don't kill bodies. They consume minds. Based on your reports, they seem to prefer organized, structured thought patterns, which is why they target your military installations first. And this helps us how? Asked Vosteller. Because human minds are different, Ilara said, bringing up comparative neural scans. Your species evolved with highly ordered thought patterns. Logic, sequence, structure. But humans. She displayed an image of a human brain, neural pathways lighting up in chaotic, seemingly random patterns. We're chaotic thinkers. Contradictory. We hold opposing ideas simultaneously. We use metaphor, abstraction, irrationality. Our minds are messy. Admiral Zex Talon's crystalline face couldn't show expressions, but his tone dripped with skepticism. And you believe this messiness is a defense? I believe it's a weapon, Ilara corrected. The whispers feed on ordered consciousness. I propose we give them something they can't digest. High Chancellor Iridian leaned forward. What exactly are you suggesting, Commander? A transmission, Ilara said, broadcasting human thought patterns across the affected regions. If I'm right, the whispers will either be repelled by it or try to consume it and find it indigestible. You want to broadcast human thoughts. Counselor Krell sounded appalled. As a weapon, as a disruptor, Ilara clarified. Think of it like introducing a virus into a computer system. The whispers expect minds to function in a certain way. Human consciousness breaks those rules. The council members exchanged glances, a mixture of doubt and desperate hope in their alien faces. This is absurd, Admiral Zex Telon finally said. We cannot base our final defense on the primitive thought patterns of a barely spacefaring species. With respect, Admiral, Ilara said, her voice steadier than she felt. We are out of options. The whispers will reach Nexus Station within 12 hours. There will be no evacuation, no retreat. We either try something now, or we join the vanished. High Chancellor Iridian studied her for a long moment. What would you need to implement this human solution? Access to the main communications array, a quantum processing core, and Ilara hesitated. Volunteers. Human volunteers. For what purpose? Asked Vosteller. To serve as thought donors, Ilara explained. I need raw human consciousness to broadcast. Admiral Zex Talon made a sound like shattering glass, the crystalline equivalent of derisive laughter. This grows more preposterous by the moment. You want to harvest human thoughts as ammunition. I want to save lives. Admiral, Ilara replied, keeping her voice level. All lives, including yours. Before the Admiral could respond, the emergency lights switched from pulsing to solid red. A voice boomed through the chamber. Proximity alert. Unknown entities detected in outer security perimeter. All personnel to emergency stations. The council members rose in alarm. High Chancellor Iridian raised his ancient hands for silence. The whispers have arrived ahead of schedule, he announced gravely. We have perhaps 3 hours, not 12. He turned to Ilara. Commander Voss, your plan is untested, based on theories rather than facts, and frankly, sounds like the desperate imagining of a primitive mind. He paused. It is also the only plan we have. You have my authorization. Admiral Zex Talon's crystalline form vibrated with objection. Chancellor, I must protest. Your protest is noted, Admiral. Iridian cut him off. But unless you have an alternative to offer, we will proceed with Commander Voss's plan. He turned back to Ilara. How many human volunteers do you need? As many as possible, Ilara said. But I can begin with just one. She straightened her shoulders. Myself. The exodus from Nexus Station had already begun. Though evacuation ships were launching continuously, only a fraction of the station's 80,000 residents would escape before the whispers arrived. Ilara watched the departing vessels from the window of the communications center as she worked, trying not to think about the lives hanging in the balance. The neural interface crown felt cold against her temples. Around her, a hastily assembled team of technicians, mostly non-humans, worked to connect the device to the station's main communications array. This is unprecedented technology, said Chief Engineer Maeltor, a Xeronian whose 6 limbs moved with incredible precision over the equipment. Consciousness broadcasting has been theorized but never attempted at this scale. There's a first time for everything, Ilara replied, checking the neural calibration on her display. Status report. The quantum core is online, reported another technician. Broadcasting capability at 60% and rising. But Commander, the technician, a young Palladian with iridescent skin, hesitated. We're detecting the whispers within the outer habitation rings. They're moving faster than predicted. Ilara swallowed hard. How long? 30 minutes, maybe less. Not enough time to reach full broadcast capacity. Not enough time to evacuate even a quarter of the remaining population. Not enough time. She activated her comlink. "This is Commander Voss to all human personnel on Nexus Station. I need volunteers for an emergency protocol. Report to Communications Center Alpha immediately." It was a desperate gamble. There were perhaps 200 humans on the entire station, most of them diplomatic staff or technical consultants. Would they respond? Would they understand what she was asking of them? The first human arrived 3 minutes later, Dr. Maya Chen, a xenobiologist. She was followed by engineering consultant Raj Patel, then security officer Marcus Jones. Within 10 minutes, 57 humans had packed into the communications center, their faces tense but determined. "I need your thoughts," Ilara told them bluntly. "Your dreams, fears, hopes, memories, everything that makes your consciousness uniquely human. It may be our only weapon against what's coming." To their credit, not one of them hesitated. As additional neural interface crowns were distributed, Ilara glimpsed movement through the observation window. In the corridor beyond, shadows moved where no shadows should be. Not darkness exactly, but an absence of light, of substance, of reality itself. The whispers had reached the central hub. "We're out of time," Ilara announced. "Everyone with an interface, activate now. The rest of you, evacuate immediately." "We're staying," said Dr. Chen, speaking for those without interfaces. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Ilara nodded, emotion threatening to overcome her professional demeanor. "Then think. Feel. Be as human as you've ever been." She activated her neural crown and closed her eyes. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. 58 human minds connected through the quantum core, their thoughts amplified and broadcast across the station. Ilara felt it all. Every memory, emotion, and contradictory impulse. Poetry mixed with mathematics. Love intertwined with logic. Dreams collided with data. The glorious, chaotic symphony of human consciousness poured through her and out into the station. Through half-opened eyes, she saw the whispers pause at the doorway, formless, shifting patches of not-quite existence. They seemed to recoil from the broadcast, rippling and contorting as if in pain or confusion. Then they surged forward. "They're adapting," shouted Chief Engineer Maeltor. "The broadcast isn't stopping them." Ilara gritted her teeth, pushing her consciousness deeper into the connection. "More," she gasped. "We need to go deeper. Not just surface thoughts. Everything. Give them everything." The human volunteers responded, their minds opening fully to the connection. Childhood traumas, secret shames, transcendent joys, forbidden desires, the darkest corners and brightest heights of human experience flooded the broadcast. And still whispers came. They reached the first row of technicians, non-humans who had bravely remained at their posts. Ilara watched in horror as the aliens simply ceased. Not dead bodies left behind, just empty space where living beings had stood seconds before. Then the whispers touched the first human volunteer, and something extraordinary happened. Instead of vanishing, the human, Marcus Jones, remained. His body convulsed, his eyes rolled back, but he remained physically present. And the whisper that had touched him seemed to shudder, its not-quite form rippling violently. Then it exploded, or rather, imploded, collapsing in on itself with a sound like a distant scream. "What just happened?" demanded Maeltor. Ilara's mind raced through the connection, sensing what had occurred. It tried to consume his consciousness directly, she realized, but couldn't process it. The direct contact was too much. Understanding dawned. "It's not enough to broadcast our thoughts," she announced. "We need to let them try to take us. Our minds are the trap." It was a terrible risk. Not everyone might survive as Marcus had, but it was their only chance. "Brace yourselves," Ilara warned the volunteers. "When they touch you, don't fight. Let them in. Let them try to consume you." The whispers surged forward again, touching human after human. Some volunteers collapsed. Others screamed. But none vanished. And with each attempted consumption, more of the whispers imploded, their not-quite existence snuffed out by the chaotic, contradictory nature of human consciousness. Through the neural connection, Ilara felt everything. Each mind struggling, each whisper failing. The pain was excruciating, but she maintained the broadcast, channeling the shared human consciousness not just through Nexus Station, but beyond, to the surrounding space where more of the whispers waited. The last thing she remembered before losing consciousness was the sight of the whispers retreating, fleeing from the humans they couldn't consume, from the minds that had become their poison. The human solution. Ilara woke in the medical bay 3 days later. Her head throbbed with the residual effect of the neural connection, but her mind was her own again. Beside her bed sat High Chancellor Iridian, his ancient scaled face betraying uncharacteristic concern. "Welcome back, Commander," he said when he saw her eyes open. "You have been greatly missed." Ilara tried to sit up, wincing at the effort. The station. The whispers. "Nexus Station stands," Iridian assured her. "As for the whispers, they are not defeated, but they have withdrawn. Not just from here, but from all sectors they had invaded. Your human solution proved effective beyond our highest hopes." Relief flooded through her. Casualties. Iridian's expression sobered. All non-human personnel in direct contact with the whispers were lost. Of the 58 human volunteers, 43 survived. The others remain in comas, their bodies present but their minds. He trailed off. Still fighting, Ilara finished for him. She closed her eyes briefly, honoring their sacrifice. And beyond the station, have we received reports from other systems? That, said Iridian, is the truly remarkable part. He activated a small holographic display. We broadcast your neural pattern to every communication relay in range. From there, it spread throughout Basilian space. Wherever the whispers encountered the broadcast, they retreated. Settlements that were on the verge of being taken have reported the whispers simply leaving. The holographic display showed dozens of systems, points of light representing populations that had been saved. Millions of lives. But this is only a reprieve, not a victory, Iridian continued. The whispers still exist. They may adapt, return when the broadcast fades. We need a permanent solution. Ilara nodded slowly, her tactical mind already working through the implications. We need to understand them better. And we need more humans. Yes, agreed Iridian. Which brings me to the purpose of my visit, beyond checking on your recovery. He straightened in his chair, suddenly formal. The Galactic Council has unanimously voted to extend an invitation to Earth to join as a full member, with all associated rights and privileges. Ilara stared at him in shock. It was unprecedented. Earth had been considered centuries away from such recognition. "Because you need us as weapons," she said quietly. "Because we need you as allies," Iridian corrected. "Your species possesses qualities we had dismissed as primitive that have proven to be uniquely valuable. The chaotic nature of human thought, your emotional depth, your cognitive contradictions. These are not weaknesses but strengths we fail to recognize." He leaned forward. "But more than that, we need you for what happened after the whispers touched your volunteers." "What do you mean?" "The survivors," Iridian explained, "have changed. Through direct contact with the whispers, they've gained insights. They report fragments of knowledge, glimpses of the whispers' nature and origin. It seems that while your minds were indigestible to the whispers, you were able to absorb something of them." Ilara frowned, probing her own consciousness. Now that Iridian mentioned it, there were new patterns in her thoughts, alien concepts that hadn't been there before. "I sense something," she admitted. "It's not clear yet, but it may be the key to truly understanding and defeating them," Iridian finished. "Which is why we need more humans, not just as defenders, but as interpreters of what we face." Before Ilara could respond, the door to the medical bay slid open. Admiral Zex Talon entered, his crystalline form gleaming under the medical lights. To Ilara's surprise, He inclined his upper body toward her, the Basilian equivalent of a respectful vow. "Commander Voss," he said, his voice still like grinding glass, but lacking its former disdain. "The Council has asked me to personally extend our gratitude for your service. Your unconventional approach saved this station, and possibly our civilization." Coming from the Admiral, this was extraordinary praise. Ilara acknowledged it with a nod. "Thank you, Admiral. But I didn't act alone. Every volunteer deserves equal recognition." "They shall have it," promised Iridian. "Which brings me to our other news. In recognition of your insight and leadership, the Council has created a new position, Commander of Special Tactical Response. We would like you to assume this role, with authority to recruit and train a specialized force, primarily human, but open to any species with compatible cognitive patterns." Ilara's mind raced with the implications. "You're creating a human-led defense force against the Whispers." "We are creating a task force uniquely qualified to confront threats that defy conventional response," corrected Zextalon. "The Whispers are the immediate concern, but who knows what other challenges await us in the darkness between stars." For a moment, Ilara was speechless. Just weeks ago, humans had been barely tolerated in galactic society, seen as unstable, emotional creatures with primitive technology and provincial perspectives. Now they were being invited not just to the table, but to help lead the defense of all civilized worlds. "There is something else you should see," said Iridian, rising from his chair. "Can you walk?" With some effort, Ilara got to her feet. Iridian led her and Admiral Zextalon to a large observation window overlooking Nexus Station's main docking bay. Below them, dozens of ships were arriving, vessels of unfamiliar design, sleek and swift. "Earth responded to our invitation with remarkable speed," explained Iridian. "These are the first volunteers, over 5,000 humans answering our call for aid." Ilara watched as the ships docked and humans began to disembark, men and women of all ages and backgrounds, their faces showing a mixture of excitement, apprehension, and determination. Among them were soldiers, scientists, artists, philosophers, a cross-section of humanity in all its chaotic, contradictory glory. "They came so quickly," Ilara murmured, "without knowing the risks." "We explained the dangers," said Zextalon. Their response was, he seemed to search for the right words. Typically human. They said, "Where there's danger, there's also hope." Ilara smiled at that. So quintessentially human indeed, facing existential threat with not just courage but optimism, perhaps even foolish optimism, but that too was part of their strength. "I should meet them," she said. "Begin preparations." As they made their way to the docking bay, Ilara became aware of how the non-human station personnel regarded her now. Where once there had been dismissal or curiosity, now there was respect, even awe. Word of what the humans had done had spread throughout the station. Everything had changed. In the vast docking bay, the human volunteers had gathered, looking around with wonder at the alien architecture and technology. Ilara stepped forward, suddenly conscious of her position as their representative in this new alliance. "Welcome to Nexus Station," she addressed them. "I'm Commander Ilara Voss. 3 days ago, humans on this station faced an enemy that had defeated the most advanced civilizations in our galaxy. We survived not through superior technology or numbers, but through the unique nature of human consciousness." She gestured to the alien officials beside her. "The Galactic Council has recognized what we can contribute, not despite our chaotic minds, our emotions, or our contradictions, but because of them. What we've long thought of as human weaknesses have proven to be unique strengths." Murmurs ran through the crowd as the volunteers processed this. "Make no mistake," Ilara continued. "What we face is dangerous. The Whispers have withdrawn but not disappeared. Some of our volunteers paid with their lives, others with their minds. Those who join this fight risk the same." She paused, looking out at the sea of human faces. "But we also stand at a historic moment. Humanity has been invited to join the Galactic Council, not as junior partners, but as essential allies. The path we forge here will shape Earth's place among the stars for generations to come. A scientist stepped forward from the crowd. Dr. Julian Martinez, a neurologist according to his credential badge. Commander, we've been briefed on the basic threat. But what exactly will we be doing? How does one fight thought parasites? It was the question Ilara had been asking herself since waking. The fragments of knowledge she'd absorbed from the whispers were becoming clearer, forming into patterns she could almost grasp. The whispers aren't just parasites, she explained. They're a collapsed civilization, a species that transcended physical form but lost something essential in the process. They feed on consciousness because they've forgotten how to generate their own. They're trying to remember how to exist. This was new knowledge, pulled from the alien thoughts now integrated with her own. The medical staff exchanged glances, obviously wondering if she was suffering delusions from her ordeal. But Iridian nodded slowly. This resonates with ancient Basilian myths, stories of the first ones who ascended beyond matter, but returned in times of great calamity. Not returned, Ilara corrected. Never left. They've always been here, dormant until recently. Something woke them. Some experiment or technology that rippled through thought space. She turned back to the human volunteers. We'll be building on what we discovered during the initial encounter. First, a permanent broadcast network using human cognitive patterns to create safe zones the whispers cannot enter. Second, a direct communication initiative. Communication, echoed Admirals Talon, with entities that consume consciousness. They consumed alien consciousness, Ilara clarified, but human minds they couldn't digest. Instead, a connection formed. A two-way exchange. The volunteers who survived direct contact gained insights into the whispers. And the whispers gained something from us as well. What could such entities possibly gain from humans? Asked a skeptical voice from the crowd. Ilara smiled slightly. Imagination. Emotion. The very chaos that made us indigestible also made us interesting to them. The whispers have existed for millennia in perfect, sterile thought patterns. Human consciousness is messy, contradictory, and creative in ways they had forgotten were possible. She could see the realization dawning on their faces. We're not just fighting them, said Dr. Martinez slowly. We're teaching them. Perhaps, Ilara acknowledged, or perhaps we're reminding them of what they once were. Either way, we have an opportunity not just for defense, but for understanding, maybe even cooperation. High Chancellor Iridian stepped forward. This is why we need you, not just as weapons or shields, but as bridges to an intelligence so alien we had no framework to comprehend it. You humans, with your chaotic minds and contradictory natures, may be the translators we need. Looking out at her fellow humans, Ilara felt a surge of pride. Humanity had always defined itself by its challenges. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and their own destructive tendencies. Now they face perhaps their greatest test and greatest opportunity among the stars. The choice is yours, she told the volunteers. This will be dangerous, uncertain work, but it may also be the most important work any humans have ever undertaken. One by one, then in groups, the volunteers stepped forward. Scientists eager to understand a new form of consciousness, soldiers ready to defend, artists intrigued by the chance to communicate through new mediums, philosophers grappling with the implications of thought beings. As Ilara watched them, she felt the alien knowledge within her mind crystallizing into clarity. The whispers weren't just a threat. They were a mirror, showing civilized species what they might become if they pursued pure logic and order to its ultimate conclusion. A cautionary tale and a crossroads. Humanity, with all its flaws and contradictions, its emotions and irrationality, its chaos and creativity, had arrived at this crossroads at precisely the right moment. Not because they were the most advanced species, but because they were the most balanced, technological enough to reach the stars, but still connected to their primal, emotional, imaginative roots. "We were losing everything," murmured Iridian beside her, "until humans stepped in and changed it all." "We've only just begun," Ilara replied, watching as humans and aliens began to intermingle, already forming the connections that would shape their shared future. "But for the first time since the Whispers appeared, we have something we didn't have before." "A weapon?" asked Zextalon. Ilara shook her head, smiling. "Hope."